this is so far from...
The scale is so much bigger.
Yeah, I mean, for us, again, we print out a list and it's like, here are the names, here are the books they get. The books are alphabetized in a box. I go through the box, I look at a name, and it's like, oh, Brower, Patrick. Amazing Spider-Man, okay.
Grimjack.
Immortal X-Men, okay. Iron Man, okay, done.
In the Midwest, you know the best is there waiting, so come and join the conversation. I still approved, fan and artist and creator too. This is how the challengers do. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. It gets hard, then it's a job for the challengers. What? Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with
Patrick Brower.
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 And
W. Dal Bush.
W. Dal Bush.
Dal Bush.
Del Bush.
Dal.
Del.
W. Dal Bush.
It's the curse of the podcast, such as it is, that on a day like today where I'm not wearing a vest, I have to make sure to wear a button-up shirt and button it up so the microphone has something to
That's how it
hook
works
to.
now. That's the bare minimum.
Yep. I imagine there are many different ways for stores that have a subscription service to pull their club. And by pull their club, I mean
Allocate
sort
books
their subscriber
specifically for
books
subscribers.
Yeah,
when you're unpacking.
into their boxes.
Yes.
Now, we've always done it by customer. So you get to a customer's name, Dal Bush, and then we have a list
Bush,
generated
Dal.
of all the books that you get. It used to be one list. Now it's three, because we have three distributors.
Yeah. I mean, it could be one list if we held everything to one day and then just received everything at once. Like, there's been times in the past where we've done PRH and Lunar receiving on the same day. And it's massive and it takes hours. But, like, at least you're doing it one time instead of having to do it two times. But
Or three times.
because of things arriving at different times, like, we wouldn't start pulling the new week's books for subscribers and receiving stuff into the database until Sunday of a given week, even if we get the books the previous Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They just get unpacked, counted in, and then left on a cart. And then Sunday we start pulling stuff. But we can't pull Diamond stuff until Tuesday because that's when we get it. So even if we wanted to do everything at once, we would have to do everything the day before everything comes out, and that sucks.
Just as a side note, do you remember when it was all one day?
I do.
It was all just Tuesdays?
Yeah, we were just talking about that because how different Tuesdays are now. It used to be Tuesdays were the worst day of the week because it was, 7, 8 giant gut busters of Diamond stuff and hours unpacking and then more hours pulling everything for subscribers and pricing everything, getting everything ready to go. And it was a rush. The entire day was just rushing through things because you only had 8 hours basically to get everything done for the entire week. Now you have significantly more days to do it, and Tuesday is just Diamond, and Diamond is the least amount of stuff. So now Tuesdays are the worst because they're so boring, because it's a combination of there's not a lot to work on because everything else has been done, and then there's also no one coming in to buy anything because it's the day before new releases. So
but then
most people
also
would rather just wait a day.
Some of those tasks have to be done at the very end of the day because it's setting up new releases for the next day that can't be on sale.
Yeah.
And, we don't do our social media stuff until the shelves are all fully stocked and ready to go. That's when the photos are taken. That's when the videos are done.
Yeah.
But that's not the point here.
No.
So we just outlined two different ways that we had done our polls.
Yes.
When it was all in one, 3 separate receivings.
Yes.
As you pointed out, it could be 2. We could hold it to do 1. There may be stores that, using the systems we do, hold it and do one big pull.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of stores do it multiple times like we do. I get the impression from the way Managed Comics rolls out its data that the assumption is that everyone's just doing it on Tuesday. I can see a little bit why you would do it that way. I mean, we've complained before about how difficult it is to schedule things because shipments can come in whenever. That's because we decide to unpack them as soon as we get them. If a store decided not to do that, it doesn't matter when they come in. Everything just gets held till Tuesday. It all gets unpacked then, it gets checked in then, it gets pulled for subscribers then. So that's a way to do it. I don't think that's better, mostly because you're dealing with damages at the absolute last minute. Same thing with shortages. I'd much rather know that stuff well in advance so we can try and get it corrected before new release day. But again, that's just me.
And another, I guess the second most common way to pull subscription books would be by title.
Mm-hmm.
You would say, all right, here's Amazing Spider-Man. Here's everyone who gets Amazing Spider-Man. And then you disperse it all in the boxes.
Right.
I assume alphabetically by customer.
You'd assume. Some stores have done things where it's like a customer number, which I don't know if that just means that as new people get added to the subscription service, they just get a higher number than the person before them, so it doesn't matter alphabetically where they are.
Sure.
That's a way to do it,
Yeah.
I think.
And doing it by customer could also make you go to the same subscriber's box, a dozen times in a week, depending on how many different books they get that week. And again, as a sidebar here, if I remember right, that's how Comic Hub did it when we first were.
That was the default way
to,
that Stu had it set up, because that's how he did it in his stores. So clearly that was working for him.
Yeah, and if that works for stores, that's great.
Yep.
I find, and I think you'll agree, that is unnecessary extra time.
I would be really interested to know visually how that works for stores, because I tried doing it that way one week and it was a nightmare. It felt like everything took at least 3 times as long. It was super frustrating. One of the things, this is such a weird, super duper inside baseball thing as far as like how things work at Challengers. Like Patrick was saying, we separate all of our subscriptions out by customer name, last name, comma, first name. And they're stood up in boxes. We have we don't use like half-size boxes or magazine-size boxes. We've repurposed diamond boxes, shipping boxes, and Patrick tapes the hell out of them every possible corner and angle, so there's no sharp edges, there's nothing that can break. And then we have the book standing up front to back for the subscribers. So there's a divider, and then the subscribers' books, and then another divider, and then another subscribers' books, and so on. And the amount of space, when a box fills up, you then have to kind of take the back of that one box, a few subscribers, and then move them to the front of the next box to make room. Or if one box is full, then you move the stuff from the front to the box to the left or whatever. So you're shifting stuff around alphabetically through boxes to make sure that no box is overfilled. Which means that when you're pulling subscription stuff by customer name, A to Z, it's very easy to make sure the boxes aren't too full. You get to the back of a middle of a box and things are starting to get too big. Well, then you pull out the last few names and you set them to the side and you keep filling the box up. And then the stuff you set aside goes in the front of the next box and you keep shifting stuff down. When you have boxes the way we do and you have to go into every one of them title by title rather than name by name, it is impossible to keep the boxes from being overfilled, because all of a sudden you don't know how much more stuff you have left to go, and you don't know how much more stuff is going to go in each box because you're constantly going back and forth through the entire alphabet. So that was the thing that I found the most time consuming when trying to do it by title rather than by name.
Is how quickly the boxes were filling up in an uncontrollable fashion.
Right. Like you're if you have 8 boxes, suddenly like box 2 is getting full and you're like, all right, let me shift that around. But then more stuff is going in box 2 and you need to shift that around again. But now box 4 is getting too full. And so you're shifting into 3, but now 3 can't shift into 2. And it just became very, very difficult to organize everything and do it in as efficient a way as possible. So I feel like the stores that would be doing it by title don't have to shift things around. Like I know that, again, we use diamond shipping boxes that Patrick has spent hours and pounds of tape solidifying.
Well, the reason I've had to do that is because these are the old diamond shipping boxes that had single flaps per side.
Wow.
Now they have the double flap on the short sides.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no structural integrity on those flaps.
Sure.
And there's nothing to support it in the middle. And there's also no dedicated middle handle.
Sure.
There's 2 side handles.
Yeah.
So Diamond doesn't make the boxes we use anymore.
Right.
And we saved some over the years when they first started the transition. We're like, we're going to need these. But now it's at the point where we've used everything.
Yeah.
And using the diamond boxes as our subscription boxes, I think, was such a good idea because A, they were free.
Right.
B, they're sized to hold the right amount of product, whether
Yeah.
you're getting comics or magazines, oversized graphic novels. The only time we have an issue with our setup is height, when something is way too tall to fit on the height of our shelves.
Right. But
And
that's
the
few
only
and far between.
Yeah, and that's the only problem. And again, stores do this in dozens of different ways.
Yeah, I was going to say that one of the ways I've seen stores do it in the past is basically like I'm trying to think of a way to describe it. It's like a mail sorting system,
Inter-office mail file system,
where it's just a series of very narrow shelves and little cubbies, basically.
like vertical stacks.
Yeah, so you're just sliding books into each one, so the amount of space every subscriber gets is uniform. And you're just stacking books on top of each other. So rather than standing them up the way we do in boxes, or that you might do if you have a half-size box at home, it's just laying them flat on a surface, which the reasons why we've never done it that way beyond not having access to that, like a lot of stores have basically repurposed them from like
Offices,
and
schools,
post offices, places like that. We've never had access to that, so we would have to go out and buy it someplace, and we didn't want to do that. But the cons against that for us are, one, again, it's a uniform amount of space. We've got some subscribers that have, 10 to 12 inches worth of stuff, and then we've got subscribers that have each week 1 inch of stuff. So it didn't make sense to have this thing where it's like, well, there's people we would have to split into two, and then there's people who would have way too much space, and it didn't make any sense.
Some people would need 3, maybe 4.
Right.
And then what do you do when you have new subscribers? That
Again, like
if you sort alphabetically,
right. Yeah, again, I think you'd have to go to the number system where they would just get the next spot, and then what happens when you run out of spots? But beyond that, the other problem that we would have is you're laying everything flat, and that is long-term one of the worst ways you can store comic books.
yeah, you're going to get all the spine roll damage.
Yeah,
from all the weight on the side of the staples.
It's going to warp everything. Even if you bag and board them, it doesn't matter because there's still more space on the left side than there is on the right side. And as you stack up, it's going to start to tilt, and it's going to start to put pressure on the spine.
Also, I can't even imagine having to bag and board subscriber books because that would just take so much time.
Yeah.
Even if you're charging for it, the amount of time. Goodness.
You would basically have to charge what it would cost to bring somebody in to do that for like a few hours every week. That would be the additional cost spread out across all of your customer base.
And I genuinely want to hear from people from stores that do the mail filing system.
The stack.
Yeah, just to see how it works for them and to answer some of those questions. But that's just another possible way you can do it.
Yeah.
I think that people, a lot of stores, not a lot, but I've seen stores, when I say a lot, I mean more than one, but less than 100 filing cabinets.
Okay. Interesting.
Just filing cabinet drawers, or the office files, the ones that we used to use for back issues. Some people do that.
Okay.
I've seen stores that have the subscription books in a filing cabinet in the back corner, and the subscribers just go help themselves.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of that. One of the things that's so strange always about comic shops is that for a lot of this stuff, there is no understood proper way to do things.
Yeah, there's no universal.
Every store is coming to it. Like for a lot of people like us, if you worked in a store before you owned a store, a lot of what you did in the store you worked at is kind of how you think it should be done. There's things you're going to want to change and correct, but then there's basic assumptions about how things work where it's like, yeah, I know how to do that. I know the advantages of that. I understand the pros and cons. So when I'm opening a store, I'm probably going to do it very similar.
Well, going back to where we used to work,
sure.
Even that didn't have a universal way.
No, everybody did it differently. I remember Wheaton had these, like the old CD, I don't know what you call
bins.
them. Bins, yeah, I guess bins is a way of saying it, where there'd be multiple rows, but then they didn't do CDs. So now you got these bins, and it's like, well, the bins are where the subscriber books go now. So instead of having rows of boxes, it's just all in here, and it's all in the bins, and you just flip through them. So yeah, every store. And then again, like if you didn't even work at a store, how you think that should be done is maybe if you're aware of the store you shopped at, how they did it, maybe you think of it that way. but everyone seems to just come at it from whole cloth. Like, they're just like, I don't know, these books have to go somewhere. I guess they're going to go here, and this is how I'm going to do it. And maybe you learn from that. Maybe you change it. Maybe you reapproach it, or maybe you just constantly iterate on the first thought you had, because there's no version of this that you've ever seen that works or doesn't work. You just do what you do.
How were you doing it?
Pretty much how we're doing it. I don't remember.
Were you? Because I was doing
remember.
diamond boxes when I was downtown,
Mhm.
and I thought I was the only
I think
person
I just
doing
did
that.
mag boxes.
I think you did too.
I don't think, I mean, I was in Downers Grove and I didn't have that many subscribers. And then when I got to Naperville, I want to say it was already mag boxes there.
And mag boxes are easy to swap out,
Yeah.
but they're not
And I
the
think we
best
did-
width
I think we
for
did-
so many of the magazine product.
I think we did diamond flats, maybe.
Yeah, you definitely. I remember the diamond flat
the
dividers.
I
Yeah,
think.
and even the divider poses a question that you wouldn't even think is a concern, but it's a very simple. Did the books go in front of or behind the divider?
Yeah, I know that people do the in front of, but to me, it's always been behind. A divider and then the thing after it. So if it's, Bush, Dal, then right after that is my books. Not before,
front of.
but like, I guess again, it's to have a quick digression. It's like, what direction should the money go in the cash drawer?
Yeah.
Should it go left to right 1, 5, 10, 20? Or should it go left to right 20, 10, 5, 1?
Now, to answer that question, the way we started doing it was where the most customer access was, small bills facing them.
Closest to the customer?
Yeah. So in case somebody tries to reach over and grab something.
I don't think I ever knew that was why.
Yeah. But that was when the register was facing the front door,
Mhm.
and the gap was right on the side, right by the register.
Sure.
So we go singles, 5s, 10s, 20s. But when we shifted to where the register is now, and it has been for well over a decade, if
Oh my
not
God,
longer,
so long.
we never switched it back, but we did flip the money so it's backside up.
Yes.
And that is because it's, in my opinion, much easier to spot a counterfeit bill from the back of it than it is the front. A lot of the counterfeit bills you would see, the front looks okay, but the detail and the colors of the back were always grayed out, darker, harder to reproduce.
Sure.
So, and like there was a string of, if you believe it or not, counterfeit 5s. Like, who's wasting time counterfeiting $5
I guess
bills?
that's why.
But seeing it from the back, you could spot it quickly.
Mhm.
And that is why, again, I don't know, 10 years ago or whatever, a
Right.
long time ago, we started turning the money upside down. So it's back facing up
Yeah.
because it's a quick visible check on a bill.
Sure.
And money nowadays is a lot easier to tell when it's real with,
Mostly because no one uses it.
yeah,
So
there's that.
you're looking at so fewer bills at a
But-
given day.
Strips, colors, watermarks,
Yeah.
all that is really easy to detect.
Yeah.
And we still have multiple counterfeit devices behind the counter, which we rarely ever have to use. That's not to say we don't get counterfeit bills. We just catch them a lot faster.
Yeah.
So yeah, the divider thing, and for dividers, we use magazine dividers.
Mhm.
That's an actual thing we buy, and we print the labels. We don't handwrite them. I
Yeah.
remember.
So we can reuse the dividers because you can peel off a label, but if you're writing on it with marker, that's
Yeah.
it.
Also, when people use the cardboard ones, the diamond flats of the past,
Mhm.
well, A, you don't get as many anymore. B, they're thinner. But
Mhm.
also, you're dependent on the handwriting of the person that makes it to be able to,
Oh, for
if
sure.
it's legible.
And when
and
you
when
have
people get
multiple people working in one
Flowery.
store,
And, yeah.
very difficult
Yeah.
to read some names.
When we have a dedicated Word file
Yeah.
that has a set font and a set size,
Yep.
that means everything is universal and it's easier to find.
Totally uniform.
And we alternate dividers. So for each person, it's going the other way. It does mean that when somebody new is added, you may have to re-alphabetize part of a box.
Right.
And then when you ship things around, it's still not right. But, sometimes every once in a while I'll go through and redo them, like just
Sure.
do them all. And we redid, we had a project when Andrew was new of redoing the dividers start to finish,
Mhm.
just to make everything, freshen it up,
Yeah.
make it more legible. Okay, so we were talking about the different ways to pull club.
Mhm.
And that wasn't necessarily because we were doing a whole piece on club pulling. It was just to set the stage for all the different ways to receive product for your clients.
Mhm.
Now, we're getting into the meat of this, what this topic really is.
Okay.
If you are a distributor
Yes.
and you get the product and your clientele is not local and coming to you, you're shipping it out all over the country.
Mhm.
How do you think you navigate pulling club, if you will allow that
Mhm.
term analogy,
Sure.
for your accounts?
I mean, I have no idea how it operates at the scale of a
Right,
distributor.
right. We don't. So,
Like we went to years ago when we went to a Comics Pro event that was nearby Diamond's Olive Branch facility that had
Mhm.
recently opened. We got a little tour of their new state-of-the-art facility, and everything they were doing was like, I have no idea how you do this. Like I do not have nearly the logistics experience to be able to understand how this all works. And so much of how it works is just like, you're just getting random things and it's telling you to go to random places and you just do it and you go and that's where it is and that's where you get the thing. And there's boxes on a conveyor belt going all through the warehouse. And, you know, here's a pick list and it tells you how these things go. And it's just, everything is like, this is so far from...
the scale is so much bigger.
Yeah, I mean, for us, again, we print out a list and it's like, here are the names, here are the books they get. The books are alphabetized in a box. I go through the box, I look at a name and it's like, oh, Brower, Patrick, Amazing Spider-Man, okay.
Grimjack?
Immortal X-Men, okay. Iron Man, okay, done. And it's like, that's it. I just pull those out of the box and I put them in his divider and we're done. Like, that's how it works for us. That is not at all how it works for a distributor.
So specifically, and I'm not asking you to guess how they do it. I'm asking you to think a tiny bit, don't waste a lot of time. How you would ship things.
How I would ship things?
Yes. If the country is you know what? Pick a location in the country.
Iowa.
Okay. You're based out of Iowa.
Okay.
And you are sending things from Iowa to the East Coast, to the West Coast, to Alaska, to Hawaii, Florida, Washington.
I'm sorry, I don't ship to Washington.
Okay. DC or the state or both?
Both, and they know why.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. Okay. So take Washington out of the equation.
Okay. Washington.
How do you think you ship things out? And here's what I mean.
Are you asking me how I would do it or how?
Yes, but not like, I guess I should just couch this better. It's rather than like, Dal, create a distribution service out of the blue.
Whew.
Do you think shipping out from a central location should be done in waves based on distance? I.e., do you pack and ship West Coast first? And then like the ones that have to travel the farthest, do you do those first and then bring it in slowly to the closest? Like, for example, if you're lunar, do you pull challengers last because we're so close?
Yeah, I think that's the most equitable way to do it.
Okay.
I think doing it any other way is just asking for certain accounts to get them on or after the release date. And it just, like, while I would love for us to get our stuff first, and I'm sure a lot of stores would advocate for them getting their stuff first based on whatever criteria they want to invent, I think that when you're looking at it as a whole, you have to ship farthest away first, closest last. Like, that's the only way that gets everyone their books basically around the same time.
And if you're Penguin Random House and you are sending a sizable chunk of your product to Diamond, who is just a regular customer to you, but also a wholesaler, do you give them preference so they get things fast enough that they could have it to their clients on time to sell with everybody else?
I mean, yeah, I think you have to, right? Like, if the release date is the same for Diamond as it is for PRH, Diamond would have to get their stuff before PRH starts shipping out to customers of theirs, or else they'd never get it in time. Like,
so that adds extra pressure to...
Well, I don't know how they do this, but my assumption would be that the Diamond is a large enough account that they are getting their stuff hopefully like pre-separated in some way from either the printer or from PRH. Like, Diamond doesn't get 50 copies of X-Men. where a case has to be sorted out into 50 individual copies and then repackaged for Diamond. They get cases.
Sure.
They get hundreds and thousands of copies of books. I assume because I know a lot of stores kept their accounts for Marvel and Dark Horse and whatever else with Diamond. So it's probably a little bit faster for PRH to ship that stuff out because, again, you're talking about pallets and cases rather than individual copies. But again, that's just my assumption. I, to date, have not run a distributor that I know of.
Are you planning to? Don't answer that. That's fine.
Why give the game away?
That's fair. And you make a good point. You're just assuming that's how it works.
I'm just speculating based on
I would assume the same.
what would be the most logical way to do things. If it's not done that way, I'm sure there's a very good reason that I just don't know about.
So lately, and here we are at the actual topic,
And now we come to it.
Penguin Random House distribution has been continually running out of Marvel comics. And stores are just not getting waves of titles, mainly Ultimate books.
That's surprising.
It is surprising. And what follows up with when a store will contact Diamond and say, hey, I placed this order, here's the proof. The answer that they get, according to retailers, is we've run out. There wasn't enough.
It's very surprising. Mostly because one of the things I've really enjoyed about Penguin Random House being the primary distributor of a lot of publishers is how easy it is to get restock of stuff on Wednesday nights when we start to run low or sell out of stuff. In a way that with Diamond, it was like, you could check Wednesday night, but they're not going to have anything. Now it's like, oh no, I actually can get a few more copies of X-Men.
There is a book that we're getting in 2 weeks that it blows my mind we're getting from Penguin.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've looked at...
For 2 weeks out, I haven't. Just
Okay.
next week.
Well, I don't want to say what it is,
Okay.
but there is no way that we should get it in the quantities we're getting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
I mean, I placed that order. I did not think it was going to fill.
sure.
and
It was actually...
It definitely did not fill.
take that number and cut it in half. It was 2 separate line items.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't remember doing 2 separate orders, but maybe. That's cool.
So it definitely begs the question of,
Where did these come from?
no, well, I mean, yes, but also what to do with them.
Yeah, I guess.
Anyway, that's not a topic for now.
Yeah.
The thing that I like, for example, this week, the Bay Area in California,
Mhm.
most of their stores got their books late or still haven't gotten them.
From Penguin Random House?
Yes, and are getting them in waves. Like, hey, Wednesday afternoon.
They had a notification.
Yeah, there was weather issues.
There were weather issues, and that's happened before. Like Diamond has had instances in the past where they specifically said, like, because of storms in different regions, if you have a shop in that region or near that region, you'll get them when you get them. Like, we're doing everything we can, but essentially once they leave the warehouse, there's very little that any distributor can do because you're not shipping it yourself. It's not like Penguin Random House has trucks they send out across country. You're dealing with UPS, FedEx, USPS, whatever.
But the books have never come in waves before. Like, on one day you get half.
I can see how that would happen with Penguin Random House because of how things are packed and shipped. Like, one of the things that drives me crazy, and I know you don't love it either, is that when we get a reorder from Penguin Random House for graphic novels, a purchase order ships out in any number of waves.
Yeah.
You'll get, like, some stuff, and some of it just depends on the warehouse that's coming from. Like, when we get graphic novels from Penguin Random House, the first thing we're always going to get are, like, Little Golden Books, IDW, Random House graphic stuff. Like, it's like that stuff is coming from the closest warehouse, but then you wait for Dark Horse, DC, Marvel. Those come a little later, and even those could be split up into, maybe they ship in 3 boxes. 2 boxes you get today, 1 box you get tomorrow. I had this week a damage on a graphic novel that was in a box, and unfortunately we had already received boxes from that purchase order, and they had damages in them, so the damages were already closed out because you can only list damages and shortages one time on an invoice for Penguin Random House automatically. After that, you have to email them because it's closed out.
Yeah, listen to that. I'm going to repeat that because of how madness it is. if that sentence works structurally.
It's got words in I recognize.
The madness of their system is you can only report through their specific damages
The
functionality
self-serve page.
on their website for an invoice. You can only do it once
per
yet,
invoice.
per invoice, yet that invoice could ship in waves days apart.
Yeah. So if you have one of two options, you either list damages and shortages as soon as they occur, which is how we would prefer to do it, both for simplicity's sake and also for speed in getting credits or replacements if we need them. But the alternative version is you hold everything until everything for that invoice has arrived, then you check it in, and then you list all of your shortages and damages at once.
And some invoices don't close out for a year when it's restocked.
No, invoices. So invoices are things that they've actually shipped. Purchase orders can take a long time, but invoices are things that they have physically packed and shipped. It's just the span of time over when that occurs. If it's initial orders like your new books for the week, those all come on like 1 or 2 days. So the invoice for your Marvel books for the week, for example, that's all stuff you're getting at one point. So it's very easy to deal with shortages and damages for that stuff. But it's the reorder stuff where it could take 3 days, and God forbid, like the first box shows up on a Friday, and then the second and third boxes show up on a Tuesday because of the weekend. So yeah, you could have reported shortages and damages for one box on Friday, and then suddenly found out, like on Tuesday, oh no, here's a Hellboy Complete Short Stories Volume 1 that has a giant slice on the back cover completely through the cover. Okay, I don't want to just eat that because that's a $35 book.
Yeah.
Like, I would like to get a credit for that because I can't sell it.
And one of the things we've learned ourselves for the way we report shortages and damages, we do not ask for replacements. We just pull the damaged items off of the invoice and then kill the order.
Yeah.
In our database, so it doesn't try to reorder.
Well, so it says that there isn't a copy that it's waiting for. Because otherwise, the reorder program that we use to generate reorders doesn't look at it and say, well, this hasn't arrived yet. We say, no, it's never going to arrive. So then when it's time to generate a new order, it's like, okay, well, you don't have a copy. Let's get that.
Yeah.
So it's easier for us to, instead of waiting for a replacement that then doesn't have a good corresponding purchase order number, to just start from scratch. That said, where we do ask for replacements are things that are either special order items for subscribers. So usually stuff off of the initial orders where it's like, oh, we need a replacement of this variant cover because someone asked for it and they only want that cover. And so we immediately say, like, yes, please replace it as soon as possible so we can make sure this customer's order is filled. Or if it's like a bunch of copies of a comic for that week where it's like, I would kind of like to have copies of this series for the shelf. So yes, please replace the 8 copies that were crushed.
Yeah, my basic rule is if it's a book we would reorder, then we don't ask for replacement and reorder it ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If it's just a one-off thing or whatever, no.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been some comics where, you know, if it's one copy of like X-Men or something, well, I'll just take the credit. It's not worth waiting, 5 or 6 days to get a replacement copy of one copy of X-Men. That because you have to ship it in a T-fold, it's probably going to come through maybe in not good condition.
Yeah.
Because it's one copy that's in a cardboard folder.
We definitely take more care than that when we're sending out things in cardboard folders.
No, we take about the same care. I mean, we'll put it in like a bag and a board if someone buys a bag and a board, and we'll put a couple flats between it. But like they wrap theirs in like I don't know what you call it, like it's like a foam paper or something. I don't know, whatever that is.
Yeah, but that just prevents it if like you drop a knife on it or something. It's flimsy, like it'll still bend.
True. And just opening their stupid T-folds makes you rend it in a way.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
That does put awkward pressure on the book itself.
Yeah, because you're not just like slicing along a seam that
and
just
unfolding.
pops open. You have to kind of tear it apart.
But yeah, the main thing that was blowing my mind is how many stores have been told by Penguin Random House, sorry, we ran out of a book. You're just not getting it.
That's really unfortunate, and I hope it's not something that's going to keep going. If that continues, that's kind of untenable. Like, you can't do that. I always feel bad because we don't get our Marvel stuff from Diamond, but we're still Diamond customers, so we see Diamond shortage notifications basically, and they've had almost every week. It seems like they've had a thing where they're like, "Hey, you're going to get allocated on your Marvel order because
we didn't get our full allocation.
We didn't get our full copies, or there were damages or whatever. And it's essentially like we have to do to our customers sometimes, where it's like, hey, I know you're down for Detective Comics. We didn't get all of them. We were shorted copies. We don't have enough for subscribers, and we have none for the shelf. So it's going to be next week maybe that you're going to get your copies. And we're lucky enough that the amount that we need for a lot of shortages and damages is like way less than 100 copies. But when you're Diamond, if you get shortaged or damaged or like a box is crushed or whatever, Penguin Random House, I don't think has copies to spare. So like, I don't know when you get allocated. If you're a Diamond customer who gets your Marvel stuff through them, do you just eat it? Do you just like, okay, I guess we're only getting 75% of our Spider-Man this month?
Well, okay, so that begs the question, what would challengers do if we were told, hey, I'm sorry, you're not getting this month's Amazing Spider-Man?
I mean, we just pass that along to our customers, and we just say this is what's happening. I mean, for a lot of these things, you know, shit rolls downhill, but it's also, there's nothing we can do about it. We can't source them anywhere else. Like, if it's a situation where we were shorted from PRH, but Diamond has it in stock, yeah, of course, we'll order them from Diamond. Like, we will get extra, we'll do what we have to do to get them for you. But beyond that, it's just like, we didn't get them, you're not going to get them. I don't know what to tell you.
Multiple times in the last
That's what
month,
I can tell you.
We've been approached by other local stores with hey, we didn't get our quantity of this title.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any to spare? And it's a tough situation because especially when it's a really hot book, you don't want to go without.
Yeah, and it's almost never
copies.
not a hot book. It's
right.
never something that we would just like, oh yeah, no, I do have a lot of copies of Lotus Land #3 that you can have. Sure, of course. It's almost always like, oh, that is the hottest book of the week, and I already think we underordered. So me giving you copies is just guaranteeing I sell out even faster than I thought we were going to sell out.
You're actually hurting yourself to help someone else. And we wouldn't do that. Like, if it's a special order or something, we'll track it down for somebody and we'll call other stores.
Sure.
But if we're missing all of our Amazing Spider-Mans, we're not going to call every other store in the city and say, what can you spare?
Yeah, again, it's just a situation that we would relay to our customers. Here's what happened. Here's, what we've been told. And we're sorry. Like, past a certain point, things do happen. Yeah. And you can't control them, and it's unfortunate, and you apologize. And as long as it's not systemic, as long as it's not happening every single week, then, it's just bad luck.
Along with the instance that you are aware of this happening, there was a Friday a week or two ago where another store called looking for a book, but because it was Friday, it was too late.
Oh, sure.
We had like 2 copies left on the shelf. Yeah,
again, it's never a book that we're just sitting on. Like, I would love it if somebody, again, called up like a week later and was like, hey, do you have extra copies of that Marvel one-shot that no one wanted? Like, oh yeah, sure, please take them off my hands. No, it's almost always like, hey, do you have the hot #1 for the week that everyone suddenly added like 2 weeks ago?
We expect it when it's a weird special order, or me personally, there was a couple years ago, there was Batman Arkham Knight, Nightwing Eskrima sticks that they were selling. And I'd ordered one for me and one for my pal Mike Hodgen. And years went by and it never came out. Canceled. Fine.
So many toys that I've ordered from Diamond that happened.
Yeah. And then they were new to order. And then I'm like, all right, I'll do it again. After I'd already told Mike, hey, I'm not getting it. I'm sorry. He never knew I was getting it for him, but after it was canceled, I'm like, yeah, I was going to get this thing. So then it was new to order, and then it came out like in a month.
Yeah. Weird how that happened.
And it was also, I had already bought him something for Christmas. I'm like, now he has 2 things. They're really fun, though.
Christmas miracle.
Yeah. They're sold singly, even though he does have 2. And also, highly impractical to carry and use as weapons because of how bulky they are. Even though they extend and contract, still just,
He wears them on his back. How's that bad?
It's weird. Try to like bend in a fight.
He's an acrobat.
I'm not.
Well, not with that.
I was talking about me.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, I hope that the main distributor for Marvel Comics doesn't keep shorting retailers' books and then saying, too bad. The lack of contrition in the answers is kind of something that disturbed me, I think, the most.
Well, again, you want to hear that it's not going to be something that happens continuously. Like, again, there was an instance semi-recently where, like, an entire Diamond truck, like, the truck driver got into an accident and the books got destroyed. And it's, it's an act of God sort of situation. Like, how mad can you be about that? It's it's unfortunate for your business and for a lot of businesses, but what could have been done to prevent it? But when it's happening every week, seemingly, that stores are being told, like, oh no, we ran out of that. Like, I don't know that you get to do it twice. Like, but not that you have a recourse. Like, what can you do? Go to a different distributor?
This is
They're
probably
getting shorted too.
Just how I was raised, but I don't want Penguin to say, oh, we ran out. I want them to say, hey, I'm really sorry, we ran out. Like, feel bad for it.
I mean, I don't even care about that. That's all performative. But, like, I would prefer to hear, like, we ran out. Here's why. Here's why it's not going to happen again. Like, that's the third thing is what I'm most concerned about is, hearing how it happened is interesting just in the sense of, like, trying to understand their business and trying to understand cause and effect. But I need to know, like, what are the steps you're taking to make sure this doesn't ever happen again? Because it can't ever happen again. Because I can't go anywhere else. I can't get my books. Like, even though the monopoly of Diamond has been broken up, it's just a series of, like, 3 monopolies now.
Yeah.
Where you can get your Marvel stuff from Diamond, but Diamond's getting it from Penguin Random House. So if Penguin Random House structurally is running out of things before they ship them out, you're going to get hit again. You can't just suddenly, like, go to Lunar, who's getting their books from Marvel or the printer directly, where this isn't it's not affecting them. Like, I couldn't deal with this happening recurringly and them just being like, it happened.
Yeah.
As though, like, I don't know, elves came in and stole them. Like, aren't you used to elves coming into warehouses and stealing books? That's what happens.
I mean, I'd be kind of fascinated
Cost
to hear
of
that
doing
was
business.
Well, if you paid the proper elf tribute.
Is it like a Keebler cookies, like those?
That's so insulting.
Oops.
Wow.
Sorry.
Can't believe you said that.
Sorry, elves.
Well, Dal, I'm going to shift topics now that we did 40 minutes on basically. Actually, I feel like that was very informative and covering a wide swath to get to one point. I just have a 2-word question for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You called?
Yeah, you just called. One of the things that I hate the most, and the thing that makes me the closest to quitting my job almost every time it happens, is when we call on a special order or we call a subscriber for Delinquent Books, we always leave a message if there's a working voicemail.
A detailed message.
A detailed message. For example, if you ordered a graphic novel from us and it came in and I call you, I'll say, hey, this message is for your name. This is Dal at Challengers Comics. Just calling to let you know that we got in the book you ordered. We're going to keep it aside for you for the next week, so if you could stop by and pick it up, we'd really appreciate it. If you have any problems making it in or have any questions, you can give us a call back, 773-278-0155. Thanks. So it's all the details that you would hopefully need to know that the message is for you, who I am, where I'm calling from, what book it is specifically, how long we're going to hold that book for, and if you should have any questions, what number you can call us back at. What is not helpful to me is leaving that message and then 5 minutes to 2 hours later, getting a phone call randomly where I say, Challengers, this is Dal. The person on the other end starts with, yeah, you just called? Who are you? I might have called a lot of people. And also, this is crucial, I left a message. I left a voicemail message on your voicemail.
Now, this is not a new complaint. We've complained about this.
No, that's why it makes me want to quit
so
my job.
much more in the past. It still happens to this day.
All the time.
And not even...
Like, this isn't like a home phone I'm calling on where, like, they look at a caller ID and they're like, why? There's no answering machine, so I have to call them back this way to find out why they called me. This is almost always someone's cell phone where the same screen that you're looking at that says that you got a call in should be telling you have a voicemail. And you push the voicemail button and you hear the voicemail that I left for you that details all of this. And then if you have any questions, you call me back and say, hi, I have a specific question about the voicemail you left for me, my name, about the book that I got in, instead of the completely unhelpful, yeah, you just called.
Now, sometimes I'm more argumentative, and especially if I'm working with someone else who made the call, I can just automatically say, no, I didn't call anybody.
Why don't you start by telling me who you are?
Yeah, the number of times where people just that's it blows my mind that the number of people that do this just say, "You called?" They don't say, "Hey, this is Steve Phillips.
Uh-huh.
I got a missed call from you."
Yep.
And I will always be, well, I did leave you a very detailed voice message.
Yep, that you're never going to listen to.
Sometimes I'll just say, I did, and I left a message.
Like,
and then I'll hang up.
as a human being who exists in the world, I absolutely understand not answering a phone call from a number you don't recognize.
Sure.
I get it. I would do the same thing. I don't begrudge anyone for not picking up.
I rarely answer the phone from numbers I do recognize.
But what kills me is when I do see a message, I'm absolutely going to check that message before I call that number back. If I was just going to call the number back, why wouldn't I answer the phone in the first place? Like, I screened my call because I don't want to deal with something that I don't know what it is. That's why I left the message. So you can screen the call still. You don't have to call me back. You don't have to deal with any of this. You just listen to the message at your leisure.
You don't have to put us in your phone book. You don't have to add us as a contact. That's fine.
It drives me insane.
Just listen to your messages.
I hate it so much.
At the very least, say who you are.
I don't want to say it ruins my day when it happens, but it almost always ruins my day when it happens. It's so hard to recover from it because you just want to scream on the phone, I left you a message! But you can't scream on the phone because you don't even know who they are yet.
It doesn't stop me. Did you hear my solicitor call yesterday?
Yes. Do you want to recount it?
I've taken to doing this more. And this had to be abbreviated, and I couldn't start yelling.
Because it was Wednesday and we had like 6 people in the store.
When I say yelling, I mean performatively yelling.
Uh-huh.
So it's whenever there's you answer the phone like, good afternoon, this is Challengers. Pause. Click noise. Call center background noise. Yeah, hi, is the owner there? When you get that, when you know it's just a time wasted.
It's always going to be about merchant services or about your Google listing or whatever else.
So my favorite thing to do now is be like, yeah, sure, just 1 second. I'll be, oh my God, he was just murdered. Someone just shot him. Quick, call the police. Call the and then I hang up in the word of police.
That's nice.
But you know, I can only start yelling, and I didn't even do it. I do it much louder on the phone.
You don't want to alarm six people in the store that someone's just been shot.
I have a microphone on me right now, so I didn't want to blow anybody's eardrums out.
Thank you.
But I would be a lot louder on the phone. But yesterday it was just, no, I'm sorry, the owner was killed yesterday. And how dare you bring this up? Yeah. We're still mourning. We're grieving over here.
Cruel.
And then hang up.
Nice.
But it definitely involves the death and or the murder of the owner every time.
Nice.
That's my new way to go. I find it entertaining. This really isn't, I can't find a good way to bring this topic around to comics, but 10 years ago, I bought it. I just rewatched that recently.
Because of Breort?
So good. So good.
It is. Like, I haven't watched it in, Jesus, probably 10 years.
Yeah.
More. But it is a great movie.
Oh, we're talking about Grosse Pointe Blank. 10 years ago, I bought an exercise bike. And I used it regularly for 7 years. Around that 7-year mark, it squeaked all the time. It just made too much noise. And I would routinely take it apart, oil it, put it back together, tighten everything. And it got to a point where I couldn't stop. It still functioned just fine, but I could not get it to stop making noise. And I thought, 7 years is a good life.
It is. For a piece of exercise equipment that you use daily?
Yeah.
Sure.
So I bought a new one, and it was the one that I used to have. They didn't make anymore, but it's been 7 years. Of course they don't. They change models all the time. So I found the newer model, and I bought it, and I used it almost daily for about 15 months until one of the pedals snapped off. And it's, to give a little bit of context, it is a 3-in-1 trio trainer. It's a recumbent bike, a normal bike, an elliptical machine, and all versions in between. So the pedals aren't just like bike pedals. They're full steps that connect front and back. And it's a strap system.
Okay.
Like not a chain, but a strap that.
Like a band?
Yeah. And it's got handlebars and big poles, and I tie straps to the poles. So when I'm still recumbing, I'm still using my arms as well. Well, the giant metal post on the back of the right pedal snapped.
Well.
And this company, Body Champ, you cannot find spare parts anywhere, and they don't even have their own website. They just send their bikes out to other people to distribute.
Okay.
So I had to buy a new bike after only 15 months. And I was disappointed in that because of the cost and everything else.
Sure, naturally.
So I stripped the old one for some parts, including the one remaining rear post for the pedal, in case that happens again.
Sure.
Recycled the old bike, built the new one. I bought it January of 23.
Okay.
I also feel like the resistance was easier on this one because I'm routinely at level 14 out of 16.
Great.
And I don't think that's earned.
Oh.
Anyway, over the last week, it's been making more noise again.
Okay.
But this time from the seat. The seat is making noise. And I thought, I might have broken the seat. So I took it apart this morning. First, I started looking for replacement seats. Can't find any, but I found one I think will work. It's also $90 for the seat, which is 1/3 of the cost of the bike.
Okay.
So I take the seat off, and to describe it visually, it's a heart-shaped seat with the point going toward the handlebars. And it's on a vertical thick metal post, which is where the center of the heart would go.
Okay.
And you can slide it forward or backward to adjust the distance.
Sure.
But then there's two horizontal metal brackets that have 2 screws each in. So there's 4 screws on the bottom of the seat that hold it across that vertical metal post.
Okay.
One of the horizontal brackets had snapped off.
Okay.
So it was still held on it was on the screw. Once I unscrewed it, it just fell down. So that is literally 1/4 of the support of the seat that's gone. And seat was also broken.
Okay.
It's a thin piece of wood on the bottom of a ton of thick foam. The foam is undaunted. It's undisturbed by this, but the little heart-shaped wood is cracked and slits, and it's pliable. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So there's no replacement parts. The brackets are welded to the post.
Okay.
And the other half of that top bracket is very loose. I tried to glue it. Of course, it doesn't work.
Oh, no.
There's like a 1/4 of roll of duct tape holding it on now, but holding it on doesn't give it support. And ultimately, there's still that thick metal post where that's enough support, but as you are pedaling and moving, your body is rotating side to side.
Okay.
So there's movement on the seat, and there's also, how would you describe this movement? Up and down?
Sure, up and down.
Your butt is still moving forward and backward, a little up and down.
A little up and down.
And that's what puts the pressure on those horizontal brackets. And I'm wondering what'll happen without 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah.
And more than that, if that just causes more noise. Because I wear headphones and I watch TV shows. I'm watching Criminal Record right now on Apple Plus with Cush Jumbo and Peter Capaldi. But if I can hear it through the headphones, it's a noise.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine it disturbing other people in the building.
Yeah, maybe.
So I don't like the idea of this new version of the bike only lasting 15 months.
That's very short.
And also, there's no showrooms. Like, do you remember the first bike? We went out to a sporting goods store in the suburbs to look at bikes.
That's right.
And to try them out. You can't do that anymore. People don't have these things.
Yeah, I guess not.
And like a really good bike is, $1,200.
Yeah.
I'm okay paying $300.
Yes. Yeah.
But you get what you pay for.
Unfortunately, it sounds like in this case you do.
So I don't. So I mean, I put everything back together because even if I ordered a new bike, it won't come for like 2 weeks.
Right.
I don't want to order a new bike.
No.
It's not a lot of money, but it's money I don't want to spend.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's more the principle of like you just bought this bike 15 months ago.
Yeah. The first one lasted 7 years and wasn't even broken. It just wouldn't stop squeaking.
Yeah.
Frustrating. Okay, Dal, I have another request for you.
Okay.
Can you call me an ambulance? Yesterday afternoon, a gentleman walks
on a
Wednesday. Gentleman walks in the store. I'm at the far computer. You're at the register counter. A man walks up and says,
that we've never seen before.
Never seen before. Not a regular customer. Says to Dal, "Can you call me an ambulance?" And Dal said, "What? Can you call me an ambulance?" And Dal said, "Why?" Is that fitting your memory?
Yeah.
And the man said, "I'm feeling suicidal." And then it becomes, what do you do?
Yeah, just a very straightforward, feeling suicidal, I'm going to kill myself. And so since this has never happened to me before, I've never had a stranger walk up to me in the store and tell me that I need to call them an ambulance because they're going to kill themselves. And again, just a super straightforward, matter of fact, like
he was very calm,
like wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary, wasn't brandishing anything, just walked in and told me that I needed to call him an ambulance because he was going to kill himself. So at first, my brain's just like, what is happening? Like, what? Like, is
this a scam?
Basically, is this a scam? Was my first thought. Is like, what? Like, so I'm trying to discern, like, from him, why are you asking me to do this? Like, why did you come to this store?
Are you injured? Were you hit by a car outside?
I didn't ask my follow-up questions because I'm looking at him and he seems fine. Like, and again, this isn't like, call me an ambulance because I was hit by a car, because I'm bleeding, or because I feel sick, or whatever. This is just someone casually almost walking in and telling me that he would like me to call him an ambulance because he feels suicidal. And it's just, so on the one hand, it's just like, well, I have to do something about this. If someone's telling me, regardless of who this person is or what I know about them, it's not my role to discern their honesty as to whether or not they're going to actually be a threat to themselves or not. If they're saying they're going to be, I have to take that seriously. But the other part of my brain is like, why did someone just wander into this store with no pretense and just told me this? Like, why did we jump right to a stranger asking me to call them an ambulance because they're going to kill themselves? And like, as my brain got into the right gear, I'm like, oh, this is a homeless guy, and he wants to be at a place where they can take care of him, but he can't get that unless he says that he's a threat to himself, because they will have to keep him for like a certain amount of time under observation.
72 hours?
I don't know what it is. So it's just like, oh, okay, this is a guy who wants to be inside. So I say, okay, so I call 911, and I've never in my life had to call 911, so that was a nice thing to have to learn how to do.
Have you never?
I've never called 911.
Not like shoplifters or anything, or? You
don't call 911 for that. I usually call like a different number, or like the last time I did it was probably like in the suburbs.
Okay.
20 years ago, and I don't even remember what number I called. Because I'd heard from other people, like, they don't like you calling 911 for something that just needs like a squad car or something. Like 911 is an emergency. A shoplifter isn't necessarily an emergency. It's usually, when I had that encounter 20 years ago, it was just some kid taking like packs of cards, and you catch them and they're sheepish, and you make a big show of it. Like, I wouldn't anymore probably. But back then it was very like,
I suppose my stories are a little more violent.
Yeah, yours are, you have to call 911 because this guy is violent in the store. Like, if it's violent, then you call 911. If it's just, yeah, otherwise. So I never needed to call 911 before, so I called 911, and you know, it's 911. They immediately answer the phone, and I say, hi, this is Dal from Challengers Comics at 1845 Northwestern. I have
again giving all the pertinent information on the phone.
I don't know what I'm supposed to give them, so I felt like this was a good starting point. So, and I said, I have a customer who just walked in who tells me that he's going to kill himself and he needs an ambulance. And then they they switch me over to fire department, I guess, who's going to send the ambulance, and I repeat the information. They say, okay. And the first question they ask me is, is he holding a weapon? And I said, no, I don't see anything. Okay, is he in the store? He's in the store. Okay, we're going to be sending someone over. Okay, great. And I got off the phone. I said, okay, they're sending someone. And he said, okay, can I wait outside? Sure, you can wait outside. So he goes outside. He's outside for like a minute and a half, and he comes back and he's like, can I wait in here? You can wait in here. A few minutes later.
Well, they called back first, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, they called back to ask you if he was violent.
I think that was on the initial phone call. I don't really remember.
They did call back.
Okay. Because on the initial one, they were like, do you see anything? And I'm like, no, I don't see anything.
So then, four separate Chicago Police Department SUVs pulled up, each with 2 officers in them. So there's 8 police officers responding to this situation.
And the ambulance.
The ambulance shows up a few minutes after
so
the
like
police.
these guys, the cops are not the ones responsible for taking this guy. It's the ambulance and the fire department. So it's 4 squad cars, 8 cops, and an ambulance.
So like the ambulance gets him and they go right away. And all 4 police officers were just in a group outside the store. So I went outside. And I'm like, hey, just to give you a heads up, we don't know who this person is. We've never seen them before. They were not violent. They were not threatening. They were very calm. There was no issues. Like they weren't a danger to anyone else. And they're like, oh yeah, okay, that's good. And then they proceeded to stay outside for a little bit, and then all come in to check the store out because they'd never been in a comic store before.
Didn't buy anything.
Yeah, didn't buy anything. None of them.
Unbelievable.
And one of them's like, do you have statues? I'm like, well, not really. We have action figures. No, that's what I meant. Then yes, we do.
We do have a statue, though. We've got the Superman statue that came in.
Actually, I said we had a Rogue statue where she's got Wolverine bone claws.
Yeah.
I did describe that.
Classic bone claws Rogue.
So here's the thing I don't understand about the gentleman who came in. Where did he come from?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the first thing that my brain was trying to figure out as I was processing the entire scenario is, but why us? Like,
so
why did you, why,
whatever direction he came from,
for someone we've never seen before, why did he think the comic shop?
Right.
I'm going to go into the comic shop and they're going to get me an ambulance.
Was the door propped open?
No.
Okay.
I shut the door when I came back for lunch.
Oh, right, right.
So it's like, but why not McDonald's? Why not a Romo? Why not
if you were
Dark Matter?
Right by
why
us,
not?
If you came from the south, you pass Delgado's. If you came from the north, you pass. If you're coming off the train,
we're the middle of the block.
You pass the La Station Cafe. You pass the barber shop.
Yeah.
Why us?
Yeah, it's so weird.
Maybe they went other places and they all said no.
I mean, maybe, but that's so weird. Because it's like, I mean, the reason I did it was, again,
someone needed help.
Yeah, I don't know if this guy's making it up or not. It's not my job to figure that out. It's my job to assume that he might need help, so I should probably try and help him. And this is key, it doesn't cost me anything. You make a phone call. You make one phone call. And they send somebody or they don't. And at that point, that's the city's problem to solve, not mine. I'm not trained in that. So it would be terrifying to me to think that this guy could have just wandered into like multiple places and they would have all been like, no, I'm not doing that. I think you're faking or whatever. Like, Jesus.
Not qualified to make that judgment.
Right.
That being said, I still thought right away, I'm like, what is the scam in this?
Again, like, because this is someone I don't know and they're asking me to do something weird that I've never had to do at a store before. And it's like, okay, but why? What is going to happen when I do this? Like, is this, how does this, like, is this a distraction? I don't know what's happening.
And then if you just give him your bank account, he'll pay you back.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I mean, that was my only real fear. Because, again, this guy, he didn't seem like he posed a threat to me anyway. So it was just like, but why am I doing this? Like, before I do this, is this something where I'm going to regret doing this as soon as I do it? And it wasn't. It just was like, yeah. He probably just needed to be someplace that they could take care of him.
One other quick tiny anecdote from this week. There were 2 people in on Tuesday afternoon getting rung up, and one of them looked up on our high shelf of accoutrements, our award shelf,
Yes.
our Eisners, our action figures of anybody that's been in the store that has an action figure, mainly pro wrestlers.
Some fun gifts we've been given over the years.
Yeah. And up there were the amigurumi Patrick and Dal that Lindsay Ann Creations made for us 13 years ago, 14 years
We
ago.
look very different.
Yes. And they looked up and said, "Oh, look, crocheted Penn and Teller."
Mm-hmm.
And then proceeded to say how, well, you shouldn't make those from the center of the face out. You should do it from the top down.
Mm.
But yeah, crocheted Penn and Teller.
Uh-huh.
Quickly, did you read anything this week?
I'm trying to think if I read anything new. The only thing I read, I think, in a PDF today was the next issue of Void Rivals.
Okay.
I think it was in the...
I didn't because I'm too far behind.
Yeah, and I mean, it's issue 8. I don't think there's anything I could say about it that would be a recommendation for or against at this point. I was excited that Skybound announced 2 new Energon Universe miniseries today.
Yeah. 2 new
Dan
G.I.
Waters
Joe
and-
specific ones.
And Andre Breeson are doing a Destro miniseries, and Kelly Thompson, and
I
I
believe
do
it's
not
pronounced
remember
Deathstroke.
the other artist's name.
It's
are
an
doing
artist I don't remember
Scarlet.
by name. Yes, Scarlet.
Hmm.
Scarlet miniseries and Destro to pick up where Cobra Commander and Duke leave off.
It's a little surprising that they had Josh Williamson writing the first 2, and yet 2 different writers writing the second 2. I would have bet you money that at the conclusion of the Duke and Cobra Commander miniseries, we would just get a G.I. Joe comic by Josh Williamson, but it seems like that's not what we're getting, or at least not yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Josh Williamson is done, if he just was doing 2 different 5-issue series and was like, done. And now they're handing it off to other creators to help flesh out that world. I like what I'm hearing from each of those books, though. Kelly Thompson's Scarlet, for all the world, basically just looks like G.I. Joe but Black Widow. So
Yeah.
it's like, if you like Black Widow, here's more of that with a different artist. It's bringing in the Jinx character, which is a pretty fun foil for Scarlet in this. And then the Destro book is bringing in Tomax and Zaymot, which, again, are 2 fun characters to have go up against Destro. I'm really enjoying the G.I. Joe books from Skybound in a way that I've never really enjoyed G.I. Joe books ever. So they seem like they've got a good editorial direction for what they want these books to be, and they are definitely picking some fun creators to work on them.
Nice.
Yeah.
I read a couple of books last week, and I hadn't realized as I read them that they were all coming out this past week.
Oh no!
So I read them, and they came out right away. And
No.
it was Night People #1, the adaptation of the Barry Gifford book.
Okay.
And I said this in our video, but it very much felt to me like Thelma and Louise meets Natural Born Killers.
Okay.
And I read I Feel Awful Thanks, the translated Laura Pickle book.
Mhm.
It's Spanish initially.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And it's a young witch who gets a job in the potions department of a corporation and just has a new life.
Mhm.
But new books, upcoming books that I read Dudley Datsun and the Forever Machine by Scott Snyder and Jamal Eigel.
Mhm.
And it's a collection of comicsology stuff, so it's,
Like all the Scott Snyder stuff.
yeah, 2
Dark
issues
Horse.
in one, and like
I
3
hate that
issues.
so much.
Yeah, 56 page
Just
first
do
issue.
6 issues, man.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't like, especially because, and I harp on this every single time, you're just getting, like, there is a chapter break. There is a cliffhanger at the end of the first half of the book, and then you turn the page and it's like, well, here's the conclusion. Like, you've ruined it. You've taken a crucial part of the storytelling experience and you squandered it for no real reason. There's no reason for these things to be double-sized when you could just do 6 monthly issues.
Agreed.
It's all done.
Agreed.
Drives me crazy.
I don't think it's going to do well for us. I
No.
don't think people are going to care. That said, I actively enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it looks to be a very kind of fun, all ages-y kind of action adventure sci-fi book that
There's a secret society of inventors.
that our customer base does not care about.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like all ages stuff from those kind of creators. It's just like, oh, the audience is just going to pass that up. They're just going to say no thanks.
And then I read Monsters on My Business by Cullen Bunn with really fun, kind of stylized, blocky art by Patrick Piazza-Lunga, or Lunga. Don't know how to pronounce that. Fun monster hunting stuff.
Cool.
However, what I read today in the book that I will be pushing to a lot of people is Spectrograph #1 by James Tynan IV and Christian Ward.
Cool.
And it's Spectre as in ghosts. And it is, it's from the story. It is, if you liked Batman City of Madness for the art, this is Christian Ward Unchained.
Ooh.
He does a lot of amazing, what looks like It looks like multimedia stuff, but it's probably all just digital.
I mean, that's multimedia.
It's about it starts in the 1960s, 1967, I think, where a gentleman who earned his fortune very young and then cashed out and spent the first half of his life in a secret society of the occult trying to prove that there's an afterlife. He gets to a point where he realizes he's wasted his time and it's not what he wanted. And what he does with the rest of his life is kind of what this book is going to be about.
Cool.
But the main story, and all that was just prologue that I gave you. The main story is, and now it's 2024, he's dead, and a real estate company is selling his house. This crazy, insane mansion that he built on the far, far outskirts of Malibu, where it's full of puzzles and intricacies. Mm-hmm. Hey, I got there. And like half the story is about the real estate agent, but it's about what this house really is. And this isn't the tagline, but it should be, and it's a line lifted from the book.
Mm-hmm.
Ghosts don't exist, but they should.
Okay.
Crazy art by Christian Ward.
Yeah.
I think it is 4 issues, 6 issues. I don't remember.
No idea.
Obviously, oversized format. Obviously, a $9 cover price.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be, I think, the most popular distillery book that we've had since Somna.
Probably.
Yeah.
Which is not saying a whole lot. Gone doesn't do great for us, and Blasphemous was DOA. If we sold like 2 copies off the shelf, I'd be shocked.
I watched someone pick it up off the shelf yesterday because they actively missed Somna. Like they missed out on getting Somna once. They're like, well, I better try this one.
Okay. Not very.
So yeah. Anyway, Spectrograph #1. I liked it.
Cool.
And you could say I'm a James Tynion horror mark. That's fine. I'll take that title.
I think that's where a lot of people are, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're right to be there.
You're not staking out like a bold claim there. I think that's where he's at his most popular.
No one has said this before, Dal. The only
I'm going to blow some minds now, but I think James Tynion IV is pretty good at writing horror comics.
What?
Hot take.
Wow. Are you willing to say that on a podcast?
I'll deal with the repercussions.
You'll have to. Thanks for listening.
Keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. And help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.